But when I got my back against the wall and realized I've got to figure this out, like somehow your brain figures it out. You have to make decisions in that moment. So that was a moment. And I went from feeling like a loser, and I really did, to like, maybe this is possible.
You are listening to Amplify Your Success podcast, episode 390. And today, let's talk about engaging content that actually attracts and converts into four-figure clients. You ready for this? Let's get started. Welcome to the Amplify Your Success podcast. Get ready to ramp up your revenue, amplify your impact, and make your mark in the world. This is the show for experts, thought leaders, and service professionals who want to shatter their limits and achieve that next level. You're going to find out from other experts and influencers how they made it. Now, let's get amplified. Hey there, inspired entrepreneurs and business leaders. It's your host, Melanie Benson, Authority Amplifier to expert-based entrepreneurs ready to make 5- and 6-figure months. And today I've got a really great friend joining me who's talking about the kind of content online that works. And I've been watching what she does for quite some time, and I'm so impressed with her content strategy. She lives what she teaches, and I watch it in action, and it's really profound. She's got some great insights about how to create the kind of content that does actually attract 4 and maybe even 5-figure clients. So we'll get into that in a minute. But before we do that, I am so blown away by the people who have reached out about the $1 Million Authority Mastermind. We've opened up applications for an amazing group of people. And I always get excited when we're opening the doors to the masterminds. I've been teaching masterminds since like almost 20 years now. And I've been masterminding for close to 30. And what I know is that masterminds are a rising tide. And when you are masterminding with other people, and sometimes it doesn't matter if it's a group of 4 or it's a group of 14 or a group of 40. Actually, sometimes the smaller, more intimate masterminds are super powerful. And my masterminds tend to be on the more intimate side because I know that the quality of those connections is what becomes the rising tide. I have built my business on 4 to 6 member masterminds. And I got to tell you, it is profound what can happen. And part of it is because you are opening doors for each other. And part of it is you're really challenging each other to step up your game and to step into being the most powerful version of yourself. Now, combine that with it being facilitated by a very powerful coach and mentor, and you have a winning formula. So if you're open to masterminds and you're looking for a mastermind to help elevate your game this year, then you're going to want to go to mastermindwithmelanie.com and check out what $1 Million Authority Mastermind has for you. Now, I cannot wait to introduce you to my guest. Let's get right to it. Welcome back, Amplifiers. I'm excited to introduce you to someone who's really become a dear friend. Her name is Joy Bufalini. We're talking about content that will convert to 3K clients and more. Let me introduce you officially with her, all her official information. Joy Bufalini was a middle school math teacher and a special needs mom who became a multi-million-dollar earner because she simplified what everyone else complicates. In her 13 years as an entrepreneur, she's been featured in both Forbes and Entrepreneur Magazine as a leader in the business coaching industry. She's known for her warm but no fluff approach to helping women do their soul work profitably in the world. And Joy, I'm so excited to share you with my community today. It's almost like we had a crash course in like friendship over the last year. We've really like been everywhere each other has been. And we're like, apparently we're supposed to be friends.
It's amazing. I know. And thank you so much for having me on here, and really looking forward to this conversation. And yeah, just love all things Melanie Benson. And I know all your listeners do as well.
Aw, thank you. Well, this is the club where everybody gets to like each other and learn from each other. So here we go.
Love it.
All right. Well, I have to say, one of the reasons why I'm excited to have Joy is there are a few people who I think they walk their talk. They're deploying and really implementing and testing what's working right now to move the needle. And as we're recording and airing this episode, we all know that things are a little topsy-turvy. Everything that used to work is maybe not working so well. And social media is one of those great mysteries that everyone's like, what's the secret sauce? How am I going to get it to work so that it's not just noise online, but it's actually getting results? And Joy's one of those people. When her content goes out, I'm like, yep, that was hot. Oh, yeah, that was good. Okay, I can learn a lot from Joy, and I know you're going to learn a lot from her too. So, Joy, let's deep dive.
Let's do it.
We have so much noise online. Everybody and their brother knows that they need to be active, especially like on Facebook, but whatever social media platform you use. What do you think is the secret that you discovered to getting people to stop scrolling and actually read content that you put out,
Hmm. It's the $1,000,000 question, literally,
right?
right? And, as you reflected that, we've both been in the online space for quite some time, and like it was so much easier to get people's attention on social media 10 years ago, and stand out. And now there's so many people, even in the last few years, whether they're good at what they do or not, there's just a lot of people posting content. So there's a lot of noise, pings, dings, where all these platforms, all of this, we're just in information overload oftentimes. So it's like, how do you get attention? If you can't capture attention, you can't communicate your message. Like you can't even get that content into that great content in front of them. So one of the most important things to get your person to stop the scroll is to really know them. And I call this person your yes client. This is the person that is for your main offer, your signature offer. Ideally, it's a 3K plus offer because you can scale really easily, deliver a lot of value that way. um really know them inside and out. And this is in a different way than like ideal client avatar exercise. Like, what are they reading? How old are they? Like, none of that's important. Like, what are they thinking and feeling? What did they just say to someone? And really leading your posts and emails with something that they have. It's like, I just thought that today, or, oh, that's me, or it captures exactly where they're at. So really understanding and leading with that gets them to stop the scroll and read. So that's the
Mhm.
first step, that you just getting their attention. And I just saw myself do that this week on somebody else's content. I hired her. Like, she was speaking right to me and spoke right to where I'm at in my journey, and like some of the things that come up at my level of business. Actually, she's a shadow work coach. So like something completely different.
Mhm.
So I've even been on the receiving end of it. Like, she got me to stop the scroll because the first three lines were like, that's me and what's going on for me right now.
I love that you give a real life example. And I find myself with that too, where
Mhm.
there's some content that literally pulls me in. A few years back, I had some information revealed to me about some trauma from my past, that all of a sudden there was this one woman online who is a trauma specialist. She works with energy dysregulation. And my energy was so dysregulated every time she put something out. I was like, Is she talking to me?" And that's
Exactly.
what we're doing, right? Is like we want people to feel like I created that content for you.
Absolutely. And oftentimes you can do things what I call impact statements. Sometimes the one liners that just say a lot in one sentence
Mhm.
that get the people that you're meant to serve to kind of sit back and go, huh. You can do that in a short post. But even on these longer form posts, you get them to stop the scroll, open the email, open the post. What comes next is really important. And a lot of people go into the tools and tips and tricks and, all of these things. The most important thing you can do in your content is to have your yes client. And it's not going to speak to everybody. Again, you're narrowing in and speaking just to them. To like have a moment of pause, like, huh, never thought about it that way. Or, hmm, I like to give them a paradigm shift, a belief shift.
Mm.
Give them a different perspective, right? So you're challenging them. It's not just content that they're like, no, 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 it sounds like everybody else, move on, right? You're really
Yeah.
giving them something to think about. And that's what positions you as an expert as well. When you
Hmm.
can get them to stop and think. And we can think of all the maybe books we've read over the years or people that influenced us. We really start making shifts whenever we're challenged a little bit in our thinking, or whenever somebody can point out some nugget of truth that really is like, oh, okay.
It's that resonating energy, right?
Mhm.
It's like it's relevant right now, and it gets them to kind of see and think a little differently.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it just really builds the clarity on your expertise as well. And I'm a big fan of like seeding in your modalities, seeding in, and this is one of the things too, I think, in 2024 and beyond, because of social media being so different. Some of the old school marketing is like, don't share your how, right?
Hmm.
Save that for client sessions. I'm a big fan of, while you're giving them the insights, give them some insights into how you help your clients have these transformations. What's next? Now that you're thinking differently, now that you have this perspective shift, what does it look like to get from point A to point B working with you? And you can do that in a really authentic way without it being salesy at all. Yeah.
Yes, I love that.
Mhm.
I want to dig into that a little bit more because as
Yeah.
somebody's listening in and maybe they're just getting to know you for the first time
Yeah.
today, they might be thinking to themselves, okay, she talked about long form, she talked about short posts, like
Mhm.
there's reels, there's video, there's live streams.
Yes.
How do I know what to say
Mhm.
and what kind of content to
Yeah.
pick that
Mhm.
would and again, we're not just I think there's stopping the scroll, but there's also, like you were talking about, a little bit of that seeding that I
Yeah.
am an authority. I
Yes.
am an expert. I am uniquely trained or um, educated through life to solve this
Mhm.
problem for you.
Yeah.
So, what might somebody do to really kind of figure out what should I do right now?
Yeah. You mean like how to share content, what it looks
Yes.
like? Yes. Well, I teach an interesting paradigm, and I don't have a visual here, but I'll describe it. So if you think of a triangle, and sales is at the top of the triangle, and that's what everybody wants, right? We want to enroll the client. I want clients. I want to get sales, right? Most people are focused up there at the top, like doing frenetic activity. I'm a big fan of going down to the bottom of this triangle, where we go to the foundations. Who is your yes client and what is your unique expertise? We're super, super clear on who that is, owning your expertise, and build an offer. That's the next level up in the triangle. If you see it ascending up to sales, the next level is your offer. Like, what is that offer? That's the marriage of my yes client and my unique expertise and how I help them get the results. So then, when you've got a clear, strong offer, that you know exactly how to describe it, and I think of an offer as a bridge. It takes someone from a point A to a point B, right? And then talk about how you get them from point A to point B. The messaging component actually gets easier, what to say, because you're speaking from the context from below. What's the offer? Who's my yes client? What's my unique expertise? So when you can really spend some time on that offer, get a good, strong offer, start selling it, pay attention to the conversations you have, pay attention to what's happening for clients, become a conscious competent of your expertise. The messaging part, and I see this happening for my clients, and it happened for me over the years. Actually, like, what do I post today? Oh, I've got 50 ideas and I could put any of them out here in 15 minutes pretty quickly, because it's like breathing, right? So it does get easier, even though a lot of times it's like 3 o'clock for some people. Like, I guess I should put an email out there. What's it gonna say, right? So
Right.
if you spend time doing your due diligence, the content, whether it's reels, stories, lives, posts, emails, do what works for you. I personally, I don't do many stories or reels, hardly ever. It's just, I just do posts and emails. That's about it. It's made several $1 million. And I didn't even add in online events until 3 years ago.
Mm,
Because, as you mentioned, my intro, raising a special needs daughter, I had a lot of extra things on my plate. Hence, that's where Simplify to Multiply came from. I had to keep it simple. I couldn't do all the things and all the funnels and all the tripwires. So I'm like, you know what? I'm focusing on a 3K offer as my signature offer. I'm just going to create consistent content right to that yes client. And it worked. It's really been my
Mm.
scaling path, but not much has changed really, except I do online events now and I have more capacity now that my kids are older, of course.
And I just want to say something that might be so obvious to you, but as
No.
I watch what you do online, one of your, I don't know if it's a superpower or it's like the secret sauce, what you would call it, but you are very consistent.
Yes.
And you don't, from what my impression is, tell me if I got this wrong, you're not like figuring it out in the moment. You're already kind of mapping out your content so it deploys no matter what's going on in your life. Am I got that right?
Yes. There are days that I wake up and like, this is what I need to say today. Like it's a bit of
Yeah.
intuition. What just was talked about in a client group call yesterday. I'm like, this is a relevant topic. I'm gonna whip up something on this. But I do actually do a lot of recycling now too. Like things that I know were working well 2 years ago, I can still share those. So like in a busy week, I was just telling you this is an especially busy week. I'm just pulling up old stuff. It looks new because I've gotten in front of new people, and all of that. And my team is helping me with it, of course, too. So that's the beauty, too, of yes, planning, having a marketing calendar, definitely allowing for spontaneity and intuition. But also, when you have consistency of message, you can recycle content then, too, and
Mhm.
it will still work.
Yes, I think we call that repurposing, I think.
Yeah,
I am the
exactly.
queen of repurposing what works. And
I love it.
part of
Yes.
that is we track, right? We track
Yep.
what
Yeah.
goes out to see like, okay, how many comments did that get? How many shares? How many likes? And how many people actually raised their hand and
Yes.
said, "Hey, what can we do? How can you help me with that?" So let's talk about that because
Mhm.
ultimately that's the dream. We want
Yeah.
content that's getting, a lot of people go, "Hey, I get comments," but nobody says, "Can you help me?" Nobody's
Yep.
actually raising their
It's
hand.
happening.
So,
Yep.
how do you go from posting content that people
Yeah.
read to getting them to reach out and book a call?
That's a great question. I call this dynamic the likable expert,
Mhm.
right? Like people like you, people follow, people comment, but then of course you're like, okay, now don't you want to work with me? Where are the inquiries? Where are the people booking calls? So it's in one of the biggest reasons people do not have others reaching out to work with them. And it's this again, this seems sort of obvious, but they're not talking about their offers clearly and directly and giving clear calls to action. And this is something that's more important than ever because if you just say, hey, if this resonates, message me and let's connect. That is not a call to action. This is not going to give you clients. Now, if somebody really knows you and you've had a conversation with them before, they might just randomly reach out. But in today's world, and this goes back to me being a sixth grade math teacher, okay? You have to like give very clear, concise directions, say what you said, say it again, tell them what to do next. So I think of that when I write a call to action. And not that I'm saying anybody's a sixth grader, but we do have short attention spans and there's a lot of things distracting us. So really clearly telling them what to do next. So like for me, my signature program is the Quantum Lead program. And at the end of a post, if I'm going to do a call to action, I'll just give a short, like, bridge from the insight to this is exactly what we do in the Quantum Leap program. Blah, 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 blah. If this is you and you want to blah, 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 send me a DM on Facebook, DM me the word simplify, right? And I'll know right away, like that starts a conversation. So it's just being really clear and directive. I think a lot of people just assume if they want to work with me, they know what to do, or they'll go
Mhm.
on my website and book a call. And people just don't do that like they used to anymore. So we've got to really be more intentional about it. And I think talking about your offer by name helps it be more concrete too so they know what they're reaching out about.
I totally agree. And you just mentioned the concept of keywords. That was something that I didn't do for a really long time, and it's made a big difference. Like my enrollments went
Mm.
up by something like 45% when I used keywords that got people to, an easy way to raise their hand
I know what
versus
to do. Right.
yes,
Exactly.
super clear. I know what to say and I know they're actually
Yeah.
interested and not just going, "Hey, I like you. I'm giving you a little love on your social post."
Exactly. And I think it helps them feel safe and secure, like they know they're doing the right thing, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like people just want it to be clear and obvious and know, oh, this is what she's telling me to do. And I think the more clear you are in giving instructions like that, that actually builds trust too. Like,
Hmm.
oh, she's a process. This isn't just random hit or miss. Like there's a real and it built and it shows confidence and authority and expertise that you talk about too. Like, hey, I have this program. This is
Hmm.
this is for you. And it's also saying who it's not for when you say who it's for as well. You're
Excellent
not for
point.
everybody. You're not for
Yes.
everybody.
Excellent point. Yeah, and I
Yeah,
think that's an important thing to do. You're creating content that pulls the right people in, but
yeah,
also make it really clear who it's not for because you don't have time to waste with a bunch of prospects that can't or won't say
yeah,
yes. We don't
exactly.
need to bog down our
Yeah,
sales process with that.
exactly.
I want to just go a little deeper into this transition between the content,
Yeah.
getting them to say, "Hey, I'm interested," and actually getting them to book a call, and I've been hearing from a lot of people who are test driving these newer processes and saying, "I'm getting people to reach out. I can't get them to book a call." If
Mm,
somebody was experiencing that gap right now and
yeah,
they're getting the traction but not getting people
yeah,
to move into a call, do
yes.
you have, like, a little piece of advice that might help them
Sure.
bridge that gap?
Yeah. So, like, if you're inviting them to DM you or reply back to an email, ask
Mhm.
a follow-up question. Start a conversation with that person before you send a link to a call. Build a little rapport there. For some of my clients, I teach them. They're called application questions, but they're actually very informal. Like, hey, thank you for reaching out. I'd love to hear more. What resonated with you. And have a little back and forth. Ask some questions so it's like you're engaging them instead of being like, "There's the link," kind of thing. To create a conversation. And a person that's really leaning in, first of all, they're gonna appreciate that intimacy. They're gonna appreciate like, "Oh, you're not a robot, you're maybe a
Mhm.
real person, you're not a team member." And then say, "Sounds like you'd be a great fit. Let's book a call and chat. Share the link." So
Mhm.
just sometimes I think being more personal about it, and I think we need to go to the extra mile. Like, again, in today's world, go the extra mile with building that connection and, treating people like they're special and a person and, "Hey, thanks for reaching out." It really helps.
Humanize it, right? It's humanizing
Humanize
it.
it. There you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a click to buy launch and, we're not sending people to, message bots or things like that. Like, let's have real conversations even before we have a sales conversation.
Yeah, and I would just add as well, which I know you know, but just for the
Mhm.
listener, as you're listening in and you're thinking like, "Oh my gosh, like I got so many people cold pitching me in the DMs. I don't want to be lumped in with that group, right?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Joy, what you're
Yeah.
outlining is this humanizing process is it's like there's a little more curiosity. They've already raised their hand and said, "I'm interested."
They start the
Now,
process.
yes,
Yes.
they
They
start the
start it. We
process.
don't start it.
Yes,
Right.
exactly. And I just
Yes.
wanted to bring that home because
Yeah.
I talk to a lot of people about how you're going to move leads into buyers, and
Yes.
this is a let's just say, like, people are afraid of getting lumped in with the cringy
Yes,
DMs.
I totally get it, and that's why
Mhm,
I'm a little hesitant to say even, like, selling in Messenger, anything like that,
mhm.
because it sounds like something that it isn't, and if I could add just one other thing here, there's another
Please.
context piece I put in here that, again, I think helps leads feel safe and secure before they go to a call, and, really being transparent and open about your program is my clients create something that's called an offer letter. It's basically the program invitation, like just warm, understanding, like speaking to what's going on for them, what your process is, what the program looks like. So they get a really good context before you even get on that call of the value of what you offer. A lot of people go to sales calls and they're talking, pain points and challenges, and then here's the deliverables, but people don't actually have a concrete idea of like, how do you help them get from so I think in a more discerning market, and if you want to sell higher ticket offers, you've got again, go the extra mile a little bit in really being clear and transparent about your program. And I really like it because it lets them kind of sit with it, the energy of it, really be able to see the value and you don't have to worry about trying to explain it all on a call. That call
Yes.
could be more about connection and questions when you have this piece in place. And then eventually, and this is what I moved to a couple years ago, I don't do calls anymore. And actually, my client enrollment went up, and even the caliber of clients went up because they didn't need a call. So this is the like benefit of your content doing the work and then having a really strong sales asset. It's that, not that I don't mind chatting with people, but I'd really rather be on Zoom with my
Mhm.
clients.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And, so I can qualify the prospects and everything in Messenger there, and it just feels like a nice friendly conversation, invitation. Sometimes there's a few voice messages, and it just is a nice simple, clean process that someone can move to once they've really got their sales calls dialed in. Don't do that
Mm.
too early. Make sure you really got your enrollment process dialed in.
Oh, that's juicy and exciting to think that's possible, right? So I just want to go back to something that you were
Yes.
mentioning a minute ago about the seeding your content.
Mm,
And I'm just, I don't want to put things into people's minds, but it's possible people might think, well, how do I talk about my offers? Like, how should I be seeding where I don't feel super salesy or hypey, but I am really dropping those seeds and really
yeah.
teaching people what I do and how I do it for them?
Absolutely. Using client examples are great. You don't have to give away any, examples. You can, names or anything, but you're just doing it in a very natural way. Like, for instance, one of my clients recently, in the XYZ program was, struggling with this thing, came to it, this is what we did, et cetera. And you can kind of like show it without you know, being salesy, just very natural conversation. Sometimes even in your own story, sharing pieces of your own story, and putting that into context of like, if you're in business, well, that's why I created this because that's why, I needed a simpler way to grow my business, et cetera, et cetera. And I think too, people will appreciate a conversational tone, and that's how you can talk about your offer, still talk about it clearly and be directive, but that you've built that trust, you've given value, you've given insight, and and I think another thing that takes it away from being salesy is you don't have like all these time bound things and all these bonuses and things expiring and all of that. When you don't build scarcity into it too, I think that builds trust as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's really insightful. I love it. This is such an intriguing and very powerful process to integrate. I know our listeners are probably going, okay, so how do I find out more? Like, where do I go to connect with Joy beyond today? What's the best place somebody could go to learn more about your work?
Well, thanks for asking. You can go to simplify2multiply.com. So pretty easy to remember, simplify to multiply. I have a freebie there I think you'll really like because you mentioned consistency, Melanie. And the way I'm able to stay consistent is because I know my top three priorities every day. You'll get those in the guide. It's called the Daily Needle Movers Cheat Sheet. And if you really know, like, what are the needle movers to focus on? If I do nothing else, it'll transform your business. So that would be a
Mm.
great cheat sheet to go and grab.
Simplifyandmultiply.com. And I gotta say, Joy, I don't know how you scored that domain, but wow. What a great URL. Very easy
Oh,
to
thank
remember and
you.
on brand, right?
Yes, that's right.
Well, this is the time in the conversations where I like to dig a little bit deeper into you as the leader of
Mm,
this amazing business. I know you've had some bumps and scrapes and great successes, and we want to learn a little bit more about how that unfolded for you. What would you say is the boldest thing you ever did that ended up amplifying the success of your business?
It's actually a non-business thing, but it affected my business. It was moving from kind of gloomy, dreary Pennsylvania, where I grew up and my husband's family was, my family was, wonderful people, but I wanted to live near the beach. I needed more sunshine. So we made this move 5 years ago. And the little town we're from, you just don't leave. You just don't move. You're just not done. Created some ripples and like, we're not going to wait till we retire. Why are we waiting? Why aren't we like living? This is the whole idea of creating the online business that you have that flexibility and all of that. So making that move, it felt bold. And also I think it just being able to have nicer weather all year, it just affected my mental health. Not that it was a problem, but it just gave me so much more energy, the sunshine, like really doing things that nourish me, like walking on the beach or being outside in December, really I think it was really an amplifier. So sometimes it's a life change decision. It doesn't have to be moving, but it's like, where are the energetic drags and what decisions do I need to make to uplift the energy or for my environments to really support my growth? So that for me was the boldest. And I'm looking at palm trees right here and I'm just like, they still delight me.
Well, I can attest to that,
Yes.
living our environment has such a huge influence over our state of mind. And, if you're not in an environment that's bringing you joy every day, like the ability to do that. And,
Hmm.
that's a, first of all, a great sign of success, but also like choosing your environment to
Yes.
support your growth and your greatness is very powerful. I
Oh,
love that.
besides the fact of having a daughter in a wheelchair and snow and ice in the winter, I'm like, why am I still trying to navigate the hills of Pennsylvania, pushing a wheelchair up the driveway?
Yeah. Well,
Like where's the
again,
practicalities?
sounds like simplify to multiply, kind of turned into, create the lifestyle that supports
Really,
your greatness
our
in all
family,
areas.
yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, besides, making this beautiful move to, this gorgeous environment that you live in, if you look back from today to when you started this business, is there one thing you wish you would have done sooner because now you're like, "That was a game-changing moment?"
Yeah. And I didn't mention this, and it deserves mentioning that the first 5 years of my business, I kind of felt like a loser. Like, pretty much everything I'd done in my life up until that point, I had overcome things, I was successful, I was the leader, I was the state grade, the A student, and starting an online business was like, "Sure, I can figure this out, and I'm gonna take these programs," and it's like a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, I still had not made more than $20,000 in a year.
Mm,
And it really didn't make sense either what I was doing because I'm naturally a person who can like see through the fluff, see the simple path. I'm good at that in all areas of my life, but I was not doing that in my own business. I was throwing everything in the kitchen sink at it, every strategy, nothing was I was doing things that I had no business doing ads when I didn't know my client converting messaging and trying to learn that stuff. And I was just making it very complicated and confusing. So what changed that was really having my back up against the wall of like, okay, we have got piled up debt from all the medical debt and all the investing in my business. I've got to get making some money or I've got to go get a job. And I even interviewed for a marketing job in 2016. And
wow.
that was like, oh yeah, I can make $50,000 a year. No, I cannot work for someone else. I'd really kind of become a bit of independent minded. Raising a special needs daughter, it changes you. You learn parts of yourself and, you learn to become independent. Like, no, I have to be my own boss. So my husband remembers the moment where he was kind of like, "Are you sure you should keep doing this?" He was looking out for my own well-being. And I was like, something shifted in me. I got the eye of the tiger, he remembers, which I don't like get angry often. I picked up a pillow from the bed, threw it across the room, and said, "I'm effing figuring this out." And I didn't swear back then much. And he was like, "Okay." And literally like a switch was flipped. I'm like, my offer is 3K. I'm dropping everything except posting content consistently, and I'm gonna talk about my offer. Like, somehow I just knew that, like, everything we talked about, soon as I started that in 2017, I made $104,000. Like, oh my gosh, how
Why did
easy.
I wait so long?
Why did I wait so long? Why did I like, I was looking outside of myself and I was trying to copy other people and the shoulds, and I was self-sabotaging and playing small too. Like I still was afraid to be visible. But when I got my back against the wall and realized I've got to figure this out, like somehow your brain figures it out. You have to make decisions in that moment. So that was a moment. And I went from feeling like a loser, and I really did, to like, maybe this is possible. So things changed very rapidly after that.
It's almost like sometimes we need to be on the edge of having to throw in the towel to
Mhm.
activate the part of us that succeeds. I,
Yes.
I I had the same experience
Yes.
a couple times in my journey, and I really
So well
understand that.
said.
I'm so
Yeah.
glad you shared that because I think there's somebody, maybe a lot of somebody's listening in today that needed to hear that and to
Yeah.
know that it sometimes takes being willing to flip the switch and say, "I'm not doing it like this anymore," and like
Yes.
really jumpstart the fire.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you sticking with it, even when it's hard and you feel like giving up, like, if you're really like, "Yes, I want this, I'm really clear on this," it's figure outable. It is figure
Yes,
outable, and
it is
sometimes
figure
you really
outable.
just have to get clear, simplify, tap into your intuition, and to find your way.
Love it. Joy, thank you so much. Thank you for bringing this really powerful strategy and for being a beacon of what's possible. I think we need so many examples of this today, and you are definitely one. I hope you go and check out Joy's amazing resource and move those needle or do those needle movers every day. And make sure you're connected with Joy on the socials that we hook up in the show notes because she is one to watch and learn from. Joy, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in today, Amplifier. Be sure to join us right now in the Amplify Your Authority community at authorityamplifiers.com, and I'll share my 7 proven tips to be a highly paid expert that stands out in a crowded market. Plus, we're going to keep this conversation going, and I want to hear from you how you're going to amplify your authority and make a greater impact. Before you go, please take a minute to give our show and our guests some love over on your favorite podcasting platform. Subscribe, rate, and review. Leave your full name, and I'll spotlight you and your authority on social media.